When I finished those three films, The Activist, NY84, and Hacker's Game, I didn't know each of these projects would take me on a journey back to my own youth. I simply went back to the stories I liked during my adolescence, when I first discovered film and music, and I didn't really care much about the future.
Do you think we're a part of this universe?
Not at all.
After I shot my first feature film, The Activist, which takes place in 1973, I wanted to tell a story about youth in a modern world. So I wrote Hacker's Game, and it was more about being young. That is how you can forget everything when you love someone or when you fight for something you believe in. And at some point, how you think you're the center of the world.
There's nothing to fear but fear itself, and that no longer exists.
NY84 is about the loss of innocence and the passage to the adult world. Kate, played by Sam Quardin, is going through a tough period. Friends are dying, close friends, people she loves, and she has to grow. Her suffering transforms her into a great singer and songwriter. Basically, that's the end of her youth.
You can inhabit my vessel anytime you like. Take the walk.
You have a guest. Well, I'm sure you two will have a lot to talk about.
Until I shot The Activist, I didn't realize how the 70s shaped me and how artists like Sidney Lumet or Al Pacino and the films had so much influence on me. And my film looks at the suffering of Native American in our modern world.
You better get used to it.
Big old mess out there. Love it.
Are you listening? It is time for you to get a job. Look at the people you run with. All these musicians, freaks, weirdos, faggots.
I'm gay too. I like boys and girls.
In the film, I try not to be judgmental. I want to explore characters that may be very different from me. I want to understand them and see through their eyes, even if it's the villains.
How much information do you have on us?
Enough. Enough to show how you manipulated the media.
So you left your IP address intentionally?
That was a red herring. Big companies often hire their hackers.
I like the idea of taking nothing for granted. My youth was about rebelling against the parents, the school, the military, and authority in general. That helped me to develop my stories.
Are you on drugs? Tell me the truth. Are you? You're making poor and dangerous choices you will regret for the rest of your life. If that's what you want to do, don't bother coming home. Don't call me. Don't call your mother.
I'm proud of you. I love you.
I realize I'm interested in love stories that exist only in your mind, in your imagination.
Think back to that
There are things you remember, and it's not what is happening in the here and now.
rain for days.
That's much more interesting to me. In the activist, love appears like a dream, and it becomes real just for a moment.
Could have lasted forever.
In Hacker's Game, love is more of a fantasy or an allegory. It doesn't exist in the real world. The characters never have sex except when they dream about it. Most of the time, love is part of the imagination or just a memory. And in the three stories, love is defined mainly by absence.
I am so sorry, dear.
I realize the three films explore an impossible love, and maybe that's what makes it so beautiful. In NYT4, the love story between Kate and Anton is nearly impossible because Anton is gay. But that makes their relationship very intense and so strong and passionate. I like the idea of sacrifice in a story. It's like a Shakespearean drama.
He was released today!
When someone is dying, it's a little piece of yourself who is going away, and it makes you think. And for some reason, you need someone who sacrifices himself. Without this sacrifice, a community doesn't really grow.
Standoff at Wounded Knee intensified after an exchange of gunfire on the reservation. U.S. Marshal Lloyd Grimm was wounded and remains in critical condition at Shannon County Hospital. What began originally as a peaceful occupation has degenerated into an armed insurrection, pitting 300 FBI agents against 200 members of the American Indian movement.
Right. At this point, we have had $1.6 billion allocated for AIDS education and AIDS research.
I always love documentaries. There is always radio or television broadcast or something from the internet in the films. It lends a realistic context to the story. In a way, the footage helps put a smaller story into the context of a larger story.
Causing widespread panic across the U.S., where over 4,000 people have been infected since the discovery of the disease in 1981. Almost half have died.
In the case of Hacker's Game, I explore how information can be manipulated through technology. It's one of the great problems the world faces today. How do you read the news?
Solely for agricultural purposes. They declined to comment on its use in the recent bombing of the embassy.
Vanderbilt's charity raised over $100 million in its efforts to combat...
There's also so much information to process, and Hacker's Game explore how to maintain a critical mind in a modern world. How do you filter the things that is appearing every minute on your cell phone? And this is why I like books. I like it as a symbol for knowledge. And I mean real books, also in the sense of an object.
Mid dark thoughts of the grey tombstone, not one of all the crowd to pry into thine hour of secrecy.
For me, reading a book is always a special moment of peace and quiet, away from media. You are just with yourself. And I didn't realize until after I completed my trilogy that books appeared in all the films. In The Activist, a book is actually a part of the story.
plan to turn the Pahasapa into a national sacrifice zone. The zone would consist of a nuclear energy park with 25 reactors, as well as dozens of coal-fired plants that would supply energy as far away as the Great Lakes region. The environmental consequences would be catastrophic. Besides rendering thousands of square miles of pristine wilderness uninhabitable, test drilling has already contaminated the aquifer.
No viruses, no batteries, never crashes. Very reliable.
I could store 1,000 of those on my key drive.
Yeah, you're just out of this world.
I didn't mean to upset you. Where are you going?
No, as you said, can't always believe what you hear on the news. Fuck off. Hey, man. What the fuck are you doing? On the floor!
I was greatly moved by the treatment of the Native American, especially in the 70s. What happened to them was tragic. And that was the original inspiration behind my first feature film, The Activist. In the three films, you see characters that are committed to an ideal. They are ready to fight for justice.
Tungasha, great spirit whose voice I hear in the winds, whose breath gives life to all the world. Hear me, I am small and weak. I need your strength and wisdom. Make me wise, so that I may understand the things you have taught my people. Treat the earth well. We do not inherit the earth from our ancestors. We borrow it from our children.
My name is Soyan Swartz, and I am an internet activist. I have infiltrated the IT systems of numerous government agencies and corporations.
In Hacker's Game, Soyan fights a system in cyberspace. It takes down a very dangerous tech firm that manipulates information to influence public opinion. It is inspired by real stories you have heard recently in the media.
And alter the truth, the truth, the truth, the truth, the truth, the truth, the truth.
In NY84, Kate is committed to her friends. She helps them to stay alive and eventually helps them to die. Part of Kate's transformation is based upon this trial. In each film, the hero or heroine is fighting, and the struggles make him stronger and stronger. And this until he reaches a breaking point. But the breaking point does not destroy him. It transforms him. I often work with the same actors in different films. And Chadwick Brown starred in The Activist, as well as an earlier short I directed. Most recently, he had a cameo in NY84. I also worked several times with Alina von Stroheim and Chris Schillinger. By using our previous experiences working together, we could go much deeper into the characters.
I've been wondering, what turns you on? Cybersex.
I'm afraid I come bearing bad news about Wounded Knee. Things are...
King Orba played Marlon Brando in The Activist. I later brought him back for a larger role in Hacker's Game as a very manipulative CEO.
You shouldn't worry about Lois.
Well, I am concerned. She's getting to him. I'm losing the boy.
Some of these Indians, Served in Vietnam.
Suddenly you have to be an Indian to be on TV, huh?
No, but people are fine.
Circus Zalewski also appears in 2 of the films. In Hacker's Game, he reinvented himself as a reporter. In NY84, I had to create a trio of friends who knew each other for a long time. Sam Quartin is the center of this group with Chris Schellinger and David Gimar. Sam has this downtown Patti Smith vibe that was essential for a role as a rock singer. And Chris Schellinger became a sort of Robert Mapplethorpe.
In 10 years, if we're both still single, we should have a baby.
NG1 F3.
Hold on, let me show you something.
Pom Klementieff used a lot of herself in the character of Lois for Hacker's Game. Her own biography was very close to her character. This happened totally by chance. I met her just before we finished casting the picture. She was exactly the actress I had imagined for the role when I wrote the script.
You see something?
It's beautiful.
It's a virtual reality program where you can look at that. I've actually done this with 2 pairs of glasses. Okay, same thing. Concentrate. You with me?
Yeah.
I created film music since I'm a kid, so it was very interesting to move from the composer to the director role. The actors are very much like musicians. You need to coordinate them, bring out their soul, and reveal something. I didn't compose all the music in my films because it was hard for me to do both at the same time. The reason is the composer's brain must relax and absorb the film like a sponge while the director is much more active. In each film, I used songs that capture the mood of the period in which the story took place. 1973, 1984, 2016. And those songs create the mood, the atmosphere of the time. I pushed myself to the limit to create this trilogy, and what I found out was that I like to be a storyteller. I always felt like I was telling a story when I was composing music, but everyone can interpret music in different ways. By writing a script and shooting a movie, you can tell a much more concrete and precise story. These 3 stories take place in the US, but they have no borders for me. The fate of the Native American is as much a European story as an American one. AIDS is an international health crisis, and internet activism is a worldwide phenomenon now. Directing, composing, writing, drawing, every art for me can be reduced to one principle: You share your energy and vision with someone. But at the end, what I like the most is to tell a story.